Napoleon! It's the latest movie by Ridley Scott, and I've been excited to see it. And now that I have, well...
You didn't like it?
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Some of my favorite movies are by Ridley Scott, from his sci-fi flicks like Alien and Blade Runner, historical classics such as Gladiator and Kingdom of Heaven, not to mention The Martian, and who hasn't seen that one? So I was pumped to see what he was going to do with the life of Napoleon Bonaparte, a historical figure that I have done a number of papers on in my university days. But after seeing it, I have to say, I was expecting a little more than what I saw. It underwhelmed me, and here's why. This is another long movie, clocking in at 2 hours and 37 minutes. The opening 15 minutes is easily the most exciting, with the downfall of Marie Antoinette and Napoleon's siege and recapture of Toulon from the British. Then, I waited for a build-up as we went through the important times in his life. But the movie never got there. It never managed to create any real emotional stakes. It barely touched on the political intrigue and failed to show a deeper emotional take of Napoleon's life.
Well, that sucks.
It never portrayed his amazing battle skills and felt as though he was a dim-witted, mono-emotional, social introvert. There was no attempt to develop his character or his storyline.
What'd you call me?
It felt like the movie flatlined for 140 minutes after the initial opening scenes. But perhaps the most important thing that completely missed its mark was that there was little to no chemistry between Phoenix and Kirby. And this is important because the movie spent most of its time on the Napoleon and Josephine love story, which never felt authentic. I never got the feeling that these two people actually loved each other or were a real couple who had feelings for one another. Oddly enough though, the best scenes were the ones with Vanessa Kirby, who gave an amazing performance as Josephine. There's something about her acting style that grabs your attention and keeps your eyes focused on her. She is easily one of the best things about this movie. But sad to say, I was not at all impressed with Joaquin Phoenix and how he presented Napoleon. He had a stoic, emotionless face through the entire movie, making him feel like a simple and less complex character, incapable of any actual emotion. Now, this was obviously a deliberate choice by Ridley Scott, and one that really hurt this movie. This may be controversial to say, but I don't think Phoenix was the best casting choice for the role of Napoleon. He's never played a leading man where love and romance are at the center of the story. He isn't the kind of actor that can pull it off convincingly, and I still see remnants of the Joker every time I look into his face. This movie should have been called Napoleon and Josephine, as it was their dynamic that monopolized most of the movie, and without any chemistry between your two lead actors, your movie is going to fall flat, and it did.
Is it that bad? Is it really that bad?
Pacing is another major issue. It hits low gear after the first 15 minutes and stays there for pretty much the remainder of the movie. Ridley Scott missed a huge opportunity to take the life of this dynamic historical man and create an intense emotional buildup as he wages war across Europe, deals with political intrigue as well as the ups and downs of his personal life with Josephine. Instead, what we got was a slow-moving, unconvincing love story that briefly touched on the events of his life as though it was being read from an Encyclopedia Britannica or something. It lacked any deep feeling or emotional intrigue, which is why Vanessa Kirby stood out so much and is the only actor in this movie who has a chance at any serious award nominations.
I think I'm excited.
I'm excited.
Ridley Scott missed an opportunity to take the life of one of the most iconic men in European history and expose it in a dramatic way, to take audiences on an emotional roller coaster ride through all of his life's ups and downs as a military commander and emperor. The decision to keep Napoleon's personality as a flat, lifeless piece of driftwood didn't do any good for this movie. A main protagonist that lacks an emotional range will ruin any movie. Napoleon started off emotionless and stoic, and he died emotionless and stoic. There were no lessons that he learned, no character arcs that saw him change from what he was in the beginning to what he ended up being at his death. How can you as the audience invest your emotions into a main character that is emotionless? Phoenix is such a great actor, and his talent was wasted on this script that didn't even try for an emotional build-up to end in a powerful climax at the Battle of Waterloo, another moment that should have moved the audience, but it didn't. Napoleon's life should have been an easy setup to develop a deep emotional movie around. There was so much that he accomplished as an emperor, military strategist, politician, and lover, and this movie was unable to capture anything that made Napoleon the man he was. He had a deep love for his country as well as Josephine. The obvious internal struggle should have been how Napoleon had to balance his love of country and his duties as the ruler of France over his love for Josephine. Ridley Scott should have given Napoleon an emotional range that allowed him to come across as being human and not the lifeless stoic man they showed him to be. The movie just went through scene by scene, as if it was being filmed in point form.
He's got a point.
Even his final death scene felt anticlimactic, the way Ridley Scott chose to show it. It was a rear shot of Napoleon sitting on a bench, and he just falls to his left and dies, and you're like, okay, and that's that, I guess. But, as with all Ridley Scott movies, his genius is always on display. The one thing about this movie and pretty much every movie he makes is his ability to take a historical time period and recreate an authentic and convincing world that looks like he literally went back in time to film it. I mean, look at Gladiator, The Kingdom of Heaven, and even The Last Duel, which had a terrible box office because it basically told the same story 3 times, but it was a masterful recreation of 14th century Paris and is worth a watch if you appreciate amazing cinematography. Napoleon is once again a masterclass on set and costume design, lighting, and cinematography. Ridley Scott attends to every detail in every scene and creates a level of realism that very few movie directors and producers could ever hope to create. Had the script for this movie been as good as the production, then it would have been an amazing movie experience. Napoleon is still a treat to watch because of the brilliant movie making and visuals that can immerse you in 19th century Europe. But the actual script and story was the one thing that really needed a serious upgrade. It felt stuck in low gear from the 15-minute mark and stayed that way till the end of the movie. The script didn't create emotional stakes that built on themselves to work its way towards a powerful and climactic ending. I was expecting a wide range of emotional ups and downs, but ended up stoic myself by the end of the movie. I give Napoleon a 7 out of 10. And that's mostly because of the amazing sets, costumes, lighting, and cinematography. The actual story? Well, that was a flop for me. If you like what you heard, I thank you for watching and invite you to subscribe and join the Poprageous community. And if you didn't like what you heard, I thank you all the same, and we'll see you in our next video.